Right now, we are sitting down with award-winning author Penny Jaye, although you may know her better as Penny Reeve. She's written over 20 children's books, including the popular Madison and Tanya Abbey series, and has recently ventured into the young adults fiction section with her new book, Out of the Cages. It's a fictional story about trafficking based on true stories. Now, on top of that, she's also a mum of 3 and trained primary educator. Penny, welcome to Mums at the Table. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Look, I'm glad you're here because I've got so many questions. It's quite an interesting topic that you've tackled here, Out of the Cages, about trafficking and then aimed it at young adults. What sort of drove you to tackle this topic and put it into sort of a fictional story?
Well, we lived in Nepal for about 5 years in the early 2000s, and when I was there, I just started hearing more and more stories of people who were trafficked across the border into India and beyond, and especially young people and young girls. And I just started sort of thinking, you know, how is this happening? And especially what happens if they come home? Can they ever come home? And that was really just started me thinking. And one day I was talking with one of my friends and she shared her photo album, and there was a girl in there I didn't recognise. And I said, who is that girl? And she said, well, she went down to the river one day to wash her clothes and she never came back. Wow. And I thought, you know, she may have just had an accident and gone in the river, or she may have run away. But what if she had been trafficked, and what would it be like for her to come home? And that's where the story came from, and that's what started me writing. It
really sort of tackles some deep areas, particularly for young adults. So why have you aimed it at young adults? Yeah, and that was a question I had to really think through as I was trying to write it, because the content can be quite confronting. You know, the protagonist, she's 12 years old and she gets trafficked into a brothel. But I thought, for young people, the message in this story is one of hope, and I really believe that young people these days, they experience a lot of hardship, and they hear, and some people have such pain in their lives, but how do we heal from that? And that's what I wanted to explore in this story. You know, these girls, they go through some terrible stuff, but how do they heal? And I think that's a message that's useful for all of us, but especially for young people. They need to know that healing is possible, that it's tough, but that we can face it with courage. Yeah, that's why I believe it's a novel for that age group. So what sort of research did you sort of have to do to be able to put this book together? Because I understand it took several years. It did, yes. Yeah. Like 12 or... Yes, 12 years from first draft to the book, yeah. What research was involved? How did you do that? Well, I did the first draft when we were living in Nepal. So a lot of that initial research was visiting rehab centres, and it was on the ground stuff. I had the privilege of meeting some survivors and hearing some of their stories. But I didn't ask too many specific interviews because I thought I didn't want to make them relive that. But I was interested in what it was like for them coming home. And so then I had a messy first draft, and we returned to Australia, and then I had to rewrite it. And as I rewrote it, I knew I had to do more research. So I did a stop the traffic trip to India and did some more research then. We went to Mumbai and Bangalore and Assam, and a lot of that research ended up making the story even richer. So a lot of research went into this novel. And although it is an entirely fictional story, each little bit in it is based on something that I learned, something that actually happened. Pockets of truth. Yeah.
So what took you to Nepal in the first place?
My husband and I were working with TEAR Australia, and we were seconded to work with International Nepal Fellowship, which is our health and development agency that works in Nepal, and my husband was the accountant, and so he helped. I say he helped keep the hospitals running. Yeah, and so that's
what
why
were you doing while he was doing that?
I was mumming.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you took your children with you as well?
Yes.
How did they cope with that?
Yeah, it was great.
Did you have any moments where you thought, I shouldn't be here with young kids?
No. Okay. I didn't actually, because I grew up, my parents did mission as I was growing up, so it was something that I was sort of used to, being in different contexts with kids as a kid myself, so I thought it was normal. Yeah.
Penny,
but it had challenges.
I'm sorry. I've seen that you say, I always write to find the beauty, hope, strength, and love that's hidden within those stories, even in the hard places. Where do you find that sense of hope that you can find the beauty in those hard places?
Where do I find that hope?
Yeah, like how can you find that hope and that beauty in those hard places?
Well, I think that's the way God works, is that we live in a world that's broken, and with so much awfulness, especially when you think about trafficking. And yet we were made in his image, and so I believe that there must be beauty within us and within our relationships as well. And so when I am looking at something really terrible like trafficking or poverty, which I tackle in some of my other books, I try to dig through that, and I try to see where is the kingdom of God shining here, where is the love of God shining, and I try to pull those things out in the stories that I write.
That's a great life principle for us as well.
Yeah, I suppose
finding the beauty.
That's how I try to wade through life.
Yeah.
Was this your first book for young adults? Because I know most of your books have been for children.
Yes. Yeah, this is my first.
So why the transition?
Yeah. I think the story, I always write the story for the audience. And because I knew this was going to be a fairly confronting story. It obviously wasn't going to be for little kids, and it was always going to be for young adults. Yeah.
Have you seen it make an impact? The book, you heard people read the book and respond to that?
Yeah, I have. I've had several people sort of email me, and I remember one person emailed me and they said they got the end of my book and they don't know really how to respond yet. They can't put it in words, but they know one thing: they want to do something to help.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so I thought, you know, that's one of the core reasons I wanted to write this story.
What can people do to help?
I think we need to learn more about human trafficking.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you're right. We need to sort of shed more light on it, and you're starting. And I just want to let everyone know we've actually got a limited number of Penny Jaye's books to give away. We've got Out of the Cages and her award-winning book, Camp Max. So that's for younger kids, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yep. So we have a limited number to give away. All you need to do is write to us at hello@mumsathetable.com and ask for your copy. I wanted to ask you about Camp Max, because you did sort of, you won the Caleb Prize for that. What's that one about? Like, is that just a sort of a short kid story, or?
Yeah, so that's a novel for about 6 to 10-year-olds. And what I really wanted to look at was, how does a typical Aussie kid respond to the world's poor?
Right.
That is sort of one of the themes in that story. And
because they're quite different themes you're sort of looking at in all of the books that you're doing. It's not sort of what's out there in mainstream bookstores and media, is it?
And I think it comes from, because I really believe that kids can make a difference.
Yeah.
And kids can be agents of change. And so in Camp Max, you know, she really wants to go on a camp with her best friend, but her best friend's family have given that money away to help people in a developing nation.
Yep.
And so she thinks, oh, that's great, but I really wanted my friend to come. So there's this like
We can't give too much away. But thank you so much for joining us today on the show. We really appreciate it. We will catch you next time with more great topics. There is always room for you at the table. Bye for now.